All right, what's good, Kolo people? It's a new format, like old new format, I would say. Here today, we having the online podcast, basically the stream podcast with Chung from ArkStream Capital. And Chung, what's up? How are you doing today? And are you excited to talk a little bit about your investments and about ArkStream in general?
Yeah, good, doing great. And I think you've got a very impressive opening. You've got great energy. Thank you for inviting me. Happy to share some perspectives in the VC space. And given we've been here since 2017, I think we've got a lot that we can cover as well.
For sure, for sure. And to all our reviewers right now, we're just gonna basically make the introduction of what are gonna happen today. We're just gonna talk to Chung about ArkStream Capital, about VC perspective, see the background, see what ArkStream actually is, talk about guys' portfolio, talk about how VCs are investing right now and how they are making the best picks, and generally just share some insightful thoughts. So let's start from the very, very beginning and just start with brief overview on ArkStream role in Web3 ecosystem. So what I wanted to ask you, Chong, what the fund focuses on and what types of founders or projects usually you guys approach?
Yeah, so just to give an intro about myself, I'm the investment partner at ArkStream. So our fund has been here since 2017. I think so we've gone through three cycles right until now. Each cycle is very different from back in the days, from the DeFi era to right now. I think there are many things that we've gone through, but in terms of the focus right now, obviously this cycle is very different from that cycle. I think the barrier of entry for many projects are different. And previously, there was a lot of narrative play, so a lot of funds can say, okay, I focus on gaming, I want to invest in certain verticals. But right now, the space has become drastically different. So our focus is not really on particular vertical, because you can see previously, a couple of months ago, prediction market was very hyped. And then even 1 or 2 years ago, layer two was very hyped, right? So Startnet, Arbitrum, and then now they are all gone because Vitalik obviously know layer two is not really for the scaling purpose. So right now, the conclusion that we're having, our fund is having, is we are not focusing on a single vertical, but we are really focusing on the team, whether they have got legit team, and also whether they can get a lot of real users. I think these are the focus. So it's pretty different. And I think even previously people are getting users, or getting projects are getting users with incentive, token incentive, and other stuff. But right now we are focusing on projects with real users and the very legit team. So this is kind of the focus. And if we need to pick a vertical, I'll say right now we focus on more late stage projects or other projects that has listed. We've done a couple of very big deals. Earlier, a couple of months ago, we've invested 10 million in Ethena. I think they are very strong because they've got also very good metrics and very good revenue. So basically, it falls into our category: strong team, real users, real revenue. So this is kind of the focus that we are having right now. And so right now, the role that we are playing in the Web3 ecosystem is we are trying to be the bridge between the East and the West. So if you're looking at our LP basis, half of our LP are in the Web2 space, half are Web3. And in the
Mhm.
Web3 part, we've got three of the top 10 exchanges. Some are top Korean exchanges, Asian exchange. We've got four of the big mining pools in the world, in Dubai, Singapore, etc. And then Web2 space, we've got many of the old money, old traditional family office based in Hong Kong. So basically, we are trying to be the bridge from the East and the West, because if you are seeing right now, there is no thought leader in Asia. So we're trying to be that kind of thought leader. And we've got members distributed in US and also in kind of Hong Kong and China. So that's kind of the role that we are playing. And I think we've been doing quite well, to kind of be in that position.
All right, 100%. And you mentioned a couple of times that you guys invest in projects who already have the traction, who have revenue, who have users, as you said. And would you consider yourself as investing more into Series A products, or are you still looking for some projects that are on pre-seed, on seed stage, with very early contribution, but still with a great potential?
Uh, right now at this stage in the market, uh, we want certainty, and I think in general, uh, investors they in the bear market they are looking for higher certainties, or in the very deep bear, maybe I think there are two kind of schools of thoughts, right? One is you invest very early into a strong team, strong founder, and then you help them or advise them, add value, or help them to get to pivot. And that playbook we also do, but that is not the main focus right now, because we think right now is the best time for us to focus most of our energies into projects that already have a lot of traction and which can give us higher certainties. And at the same time, we've done a couple of very early stage projects because they are the team that we know well. They've found some very successful projects before, and I think these are the team that we also focus on in the very early stage. But I think one of the difficulties of backing these teams is you need to make sure they can raise enough fundings to survive the entire bear market and make sure they can pivot enough times until they can succeed. And I think this is getting a lot harder because right now it's not unlike the previous cycle. You need to really build real users, have real traction, which is not as easy as before. So, just to sum up, main focus is on the pre-market or pre-TGE projects, and we've also got a very small focus on the very early stage. But those are founder bets. Those are not really betting on ideas. Those are just betting on the team.
All right, 100%. And so you mentioned that you're betting on the team a lot. So just like for the founders who are watching us right now, or for the people who are just trying to understand how to differentiate a good team from a bad team, what are the key metrics for you? What are key points to say that this team is good, this founder is good, and we want to have a look at them?
Uh, So for instance, I like EtherFi a lot, which is also our portfolios. When I first chatted with them back in the days, restaking was very hyped, Ethereum restaking.
Yeah, 100%.
I think even before that, they were doing something else. So they saw Ethereum restaking was very hyped. They moved to Ethereum restaking, and then I think they became the second largest protocol in terms of TV out there. Back in the days, Renzo was the number one, which right now, if you're comparing Renzo and EtherFi, Renzo is really lagging behind in terms of their FTVs, their traction, etc. And what EtherFi did is after restaking, the narrative got really cooled down. They saw what is coming. They saw PayFi, so now they pivoted to PayFi. They've got their own bank card. They've got a lot of users, real users in LATAM and other countries. And I'm also using their card, their stable card. So I think a strong or good founding team have the traits that when they see what is working or what market cares, where attention is, they try to see whether they can do something about that. It doesn't mean they are changing the entire thing. They are just trying to shift the product or how they market what they have with their own technologies. I think this is a really strong point that we differentiate. So maybe in the first call, our founder say, okay, we are doing this thing. Maybe founder really believe in what they're building, but if they know market is not having very good perception, I think they should they should change or they should kind of align with what market wants. Also,
Okay.
usually after second or third call, if they pivot, that's a very strong point that we know this founder is coachable. They know what the market is going. And then I think another point, or the second point, or the last point is whether they are having the mindset of professionalism. If you're looking at EtherFi, I think every 2 months they've got analyst call, and I'm not seeing a lot of projects in the space that they will be giving investors updates or very professional analyst call every 2 months or quarter. And I think most of the teams, if they take this thing seriously, they should, if they are communicating with investors on updates, on traction, etc. I think that is a real label that they care about building the relationship. Because usually when we invest, we want to invest in someone we trust. We don't really we care about what they build, but we know they can always change. But the team, they can't change. The way they work, they can't change. So I think these are 2 points. One is whether they know what the market is doing and trying to see whether they can fit into the market narrative. And then I think the second thing is whether they are professional and take care and really update investors of what they do, so we know they really take people seriously.
And out of your portfolio, like, would you say that most of the teams are working in this way? Because what I personally saw in crypto space, that basically not many projects are actually taking care of their investors. It's just to think that, yeah, we take your investor money, then we cook inside of us something that we want to cook, and we literally don't care. And I see the approach that you guys have is very similar to traditional Web2 investor approach. Like, you need to have the investor updates, you need to see the traction, you need to stay in touch with the team, you need to see how, good the progress is. So would you say that right now the industry kind of changed and projects already taking care of the investors more and having more of sort of institutional approach, or is it still in most of the cases looking like it was in the past? So they basically take the money and then just cook something, not really taking care of your investors.
uh, the industry is obviously changing for the good. Even I remember last cycle or 2 cycles ago, ICO craze, people just put a PowerPoint and then they can raise money. And right now, if you want to raise money, you can't just make up a PowerPoint slide. I
Yeah.
think this really signals the industry is changing, and I'm seeing it's becoming more like traditional investing or traditional or aligning with the Web2 approach. So I think one of the gap that I'm seeing is last cycle, many people, 2 cycles ago, many people make money from the bottom up. So retail, and then they make a lot of money. They want to set up a fund because they have the money. So these funds are not very professional. It's just they are just wealthy individuals that want to invest in projects. So you don't expect projects to really treat them well because they are
Hmm.
not adding value. And I think right now at this stage, we are seeing Franklin Templeton, they've got their own investment arm, BlackRock, many of the real traditional funds, they are also investing into this space. So it's even PayPal Ventures, Founders Fund, they are looking into the crypto space. So these are very professional funds. And I think it's two-way thing, right? If you have professional investors, projects they will take you seriously. So I think it's kind of chicken and egg, but the industry has grown a lot. So I think right now with these kind of professional investors, many projects they are starting to take investors seriously, and also it's give and take. Like for us, sometimes for some projects, the founders know what they do, they are very strong, and because for investors we are not that smart. If we are smart, we will be the founder. We won't be sitting here. So we don't. Because many of the investors we
I
haven't.
love this quote that
Yeah,
investors are not as smart as founders. It's the same thing as usually people from business say, that I hire people who are smarter than me because I don't know how to do my thing better than they know. And so here is the same. Giving the money to the founders who are smarter than you. It's actually a very, very cool statement.
yeah, absolutely. So we don't pretend we know how to build a product. We don't pretend we are experts, but if we see we can add value, we just add value, and the projects they will know. For instance, our strength is we are very strong in Asia. We
Mhm.
know from pre-TGE what do you need to do, how do you talk to exchanges. Most of the exchanges are in Asia. What are the strategies that you need to grow your metrics, and even after TGEs, how can you get a lot of interest, especially right now the buying power is in China and in Chinese speaking regions and in Korea. How do you attract people to really buy your token? So these are the points that we are strong in. So if we think we can add value, we will tell the projects that these are things that we can do, and they know we can add value, they will take us seriously. So I think it's kind of two-way, but the industry is obviously changing, and projects are taking investors serious. Projects are taking serious investors seriously. That's what I would say.
100%. And you actually already started to answer my next question. What I wanted to ask you is, uh, how do you contribute to the projects of your portfolio? Because every time I was talking to the investors or to the funds who potentially going to contribute to our project, I always ask the question, how are you guys going to contribute? So you already mentioned that you are very strong in Asia and in China, especially. And what I wanted to ask you here, let's imagine like we have XYZ project that comes to ArkStream, and apparently we become the part of your portfolio. So what we can expect from you as from the investor to contribute to our project?
So maybe I can give an example like particle network. So when we are back of the first round, second round, so we back them multiple rounds. At the end of the day, they listed on Binance Spot. So at first, when they first get started, we talked to them. They were having the idea to build something which is not universal account, which is something else. I think it's gasless transaction. So back in the days, I think account abstraction was very hype. And then we talked to the founder. He's got an idea. So we tell them, okay, this is good, but this is what you need to do in order to raise funds for that. So we kind of help them to structure around. The way we assist or we add value to structure around is we've got a list of funds that we know well, and then we say, okay, you should talk to these kind of funds first. For instance, you talk to some of the tier 2.5 funds first, and then you get some feedback, and then they can tell us what are the feedback, and then we say, okay, this is how you can respond or how you should respond, and this is how you should improve. So they check out the tier 2.5 funds, and then after us, once they are ready, they check out the tier 1 funds, and then in the process, we kind of coach them into what they need to say that investor wants to hear. It doesn't mean they are trying to pretend. It's just that founders, they oftentimes focus on the product or they focus on the idea, but investors, they don't. Some of the investors, if you are pitching to me about AI, I'm not having a PhD in AI. I don't understand. But what I want to care is, who are your partners? How will you really help us to make money? And how can you get real users? These are the language that investors want to hear. So we just kind of coach them into making some language that investors want to hear. I think this is very important. And then after the fundraising part, I think when it comes to product building or getting users, we've also got a very strong team because we've been in the space for uh, 8 years right now. So
Mhm.
in terms of Asia, we know what are the communities you should focus on. Because in Asia, for instance, in Vietnam, it's different. Vietnam, they just want to farm the airdrops because they are poor and they want to get free money. But if you're talking about Korea, they love gambling, so they are willing to give money, but they want the product, and they want some Korean language or Korean KOLs to tell them what to do because they don't prefer to get into English content, and you need to
Yeah.
know the distribution channel. So we get them the distribution channels. We tell them, okay, in this country, that's what you need to do, and they pick a couple of countries first. So we kind of guide them alongside and connect them with the right resources. I think this is kind of the second part, and also before exchange, of course, exchange listing. These are the things that I think many of the funds can do. So we usually just tell them the high level strategies, how much you need to pay, how should you negotiate. Because for instance, if you have some tier 2 exchange offers, you can use these offers to talk to some other tier 2 exchange, saying, okay, they are listing us. Why don't you list us? Why are you charging us? So there is some strategies to be used. And then, of course, the last part is really, even after you got listed, how do you sustain? How do you get users to be excited? Because I think last cycle, people think launching a token is the end of the journey. But right now in this cycle, it's just the
No.
start because
Yeah.
there is only one year cliff for investors. So we need to really guide them on after you list, how can you really show the people that you're building for the long term? And how do you get the real buying pressure? Right now, the real buying pressure is not in the US, it's in China and Korea or Chinese speaking regions. So how do you get people to be excited? and so we guide them. And I think the way is you should make a thing that people can imagine to be very big, and you don't achieve that in one go. So you break them down to pieces. So every time people see, okay, you've achieved a sub goal, they know you are trying to build something, and I think they have the imaginative space. And then I think afterwards, you can, with that thing going on, you can slowly attract more attentions, and then you get some trading communities to talk about that, get some retail. I think that could really get it going. But I'll say these kind of things, they change a lot, so we also need to be very keep ourselves updated on what is happening in the market, because obviously things change a lot. So these strategies might not be useful maybe next month, but this is the things that we oftentimes add value to projects.
100%, 100%. And here, as far as we already started to talk about Asia that much, what I wanted to ask you is just to share some of your expertise when it comes to China, when it comes to Korea, especially. Which sort of distribution channels are the best for these regions, especially for China? And maybe you can open up a little bit when it comes to how Chinese audience is treating crypto right now, because most of the founders from Europe and from the US, they just are not aware of what is happening in the region in general. And, like people still think, like when I'm coming to the conferences and talking to people, they still think that, crypto is illegal in China. You cannot do stuff with it there at all. And so from your perspective, how it looks from the inside out right now, and how do people actually trade crypto, and how not to get to jail while getting your crypto, because I know that the law is still very, very strict. So how does your portfolio project actually interact among these regions, and how not to get into any sort of problems while trying to penetrate this market?
So just to be so full disclosure, our fund is not a Chinese fund. Of course, we're Chinese because obviously there is some issues. We're based in Cayman Island, and we don't invest in projects with Chinese entity, because that's kind of very tricky. But there are of course many Chinese founders, as you know, they are all having entities in outside of China. So if you launch tokens in China, of course it's illegal, but investors is not. So there are many Chinese speaking retail investors that are interested in making money through crypto. Because if you're
Exactly.
looking at China in the broader landscape, uh, Chinese save a lot. Uh, Chinese have the highest saving amount compared to all the countries. If you're looking in the US, people in US, they love to invest. They put a lot of money into the stock market. They are very risk. Uh, they are not risk averse. In China, people save for housing, and now housing in China drops. So Chinese are looking for new ways to invest, and crypto is one of the way. So a lot of Chinese speaking investors, they don't know what is happening. So there are a couple of ways. They get friends of friends, or they get into some of the trading groups. And I think for Chinese speaking regions, if people can invest in crypto, they already have they are already in very advanced stage. So first, they need to learn how to use VPN. They need to use translation tools, because many Chinese, they don't speak English, but they can read English because of translation tools, and they need to know how to get the crypto. So they already know a bit of things. And what they usually do, first is they follow some KOLs in some groups. So not in Twitter.
And so this
Uh,
was the question, actually, in groups where, because right now, most of the crypto community is being focused on CT. Like crypto Twitter is the biggest thing, and it has been actually the biggest thing for the entire time. And what about Chinese communities? Like, where do they find the information from?
so they are not following on. So sometimes they follow on Twitter, but what they do is WeChat group. So there's WeChat that
Mhm.
people are using, and WeChat people exchange information. Of course, if people are typing very sensitive information, they might get into trouble. But WeChat is what Chinese people are using uh, for everyday life. I order takeout, I pay money, I go to the bank. People are using WeChat, so this is the first channel. So many of the Chinese KOLs, they have their own WeChat communities, and secondly, Telegram. So they all have their own small group Telegram communities. And for the Telegram, usually they're just talking. So Chinese, they don't care about what you build. They just care about if you can help them to make money. So for Chinese content, it's unlike, I think I've got the impression that when I went to Ethena, etc., the US people, they care about what are you trying to build, like what is the philosophy behind. But Chinese investors, they just care, okay, this thing, if I invest, will I make money? And this, for instance, people are asking me, opinion labs, if I, how much I need to pay to kind of farm it, and how much can I earn. So Chinese, they just want to know how much you need to pay, what do you need to do in order to make money. And it's very trust-based society, so they trust the people that they trust. So very unlike other, so they are not doing a lot of analysis. It's money oriented. So if people are targeting Chinese speaking communities, go for KOLs. They have their own trading groups. Go for the ones that you know they can get real buying pressure. And then secondly, trying to tweak your content to something that Chinese like. How do you make money? How much can you make? By doing what? How much can you expect? They don't really care about if you're building some very fancy technologies like AI or layer 2 or ZKP. They don't care, and they
Mm-hmm.
just wanna do their
I
own
just
thing.
want to see the real profit and the real revenue that they're going to generate, right?
Yes,
100%.
yes,
That's
absolutely.
actually super cool. And it's super cool that you mentioned this internal VChat chats because, like for people from outside of China, it's still like a very unclear thing because, we got used to the tools that we use on a daily. And in China, it looks very different. And same thing I faced with Korea when I was, researching the market. Basically, knowing which sort of volume does Korean exchange generate and how big the buy pressure from Korean exchanges actually is was a big shock for me. And so, how would you describe, what is happening in Korea right now? Maybe just some useful insights for the viewers right now, just to open up this small curtain that is closing this market from our eyes.
Yeah, so Korea, we've got like one of our colleagues that is very close, have very close ties to many of the important people there. I also went to Korea last year 3 times. But there are some information that, of course, I don't want to disclose in public, which we are not gonna discuss. But I think Korea is mainly also KOL driven. People are very gambling oriented, so they either want to make 100x or they are willing to let the token go to zero. So unlike many of the other investors, they will just hold if it drops to zero. And what they usually do, so they usually trust Korean content creator, and there are only, not only but mainly 3 groups of KOLs. One is led by Fire Ants, I think Bridge 34, another Professor Joe, I forgot the group's name, another 071 Labs. So these are the 3 major groups, and if you want to penetrate, I think mainly goes to them. Of course, there are other groups. I kind of forgot the names, but there are other groups. But I think these 3 are the main groups that people really know and read. And usually, when you want to projects want to penetrate Korean market, they oftentimes do on the ground meetups and get some Koreans to be involved. I think this is very important because there is huge cultural difference and between Korea and even a lot of Asian countries. So people really care if they have someone who speaks Korean to
Hmm.
represent. And now you're seeing many of the foundations, Avalanche and Aptos, they are all having Korea representative or Korean office, which also means these foundations, they know it's very important to have kind of a power there. And of course, you also know Upbit and Bithumb, 2 of the major exchanges are kind of in Korea. So in terms of the listing part, what Korean listing wants is if there is Korean whale or Korean users saying, okay, telling exchanges, I want to buy this token. Why don't you have this token? So they will list. So what projects need to do is they need to make Korean users want to buy them, either by maybe doing some no sales or some campaign. So Korean users get engaged. They put in some money. They expect some airdrop or tokens in return, so they can push for the exchange to do things. But of course, none of them. I need to disclose I'm not having any relationship with Korean exchange, and of course I'm not saying anything. So don't put that as kind of the official advice, etc. I'm just saying from my own observation.
Yeah,
And
for
so none
sure.
of
It's not an advice. It's not some sort of stuff. I'm just, trying to somehow translate the experience of yours to our listeners and to myself right now, because I'm just personally very curious as well. And that's why, I'm asking so many questions about it. All right. It generally looks very, very solid. And thank you for sharing this sort of perspective, because this is something that none of my previous guests actually shared, because I've been mostly focused on European/American based projects. And right now, getting this arc is extremely cool. And coming back to ArkStream Capital and about what you guys do, I wanted to take a couple of your projects from the portfolio as the reference and ask like how you were generally communicating with them and how you're making business with them. So you mentioned a couple of times EtherFi, Ethena, and also there is the project from your portfolio called Mezo, Space and Time. And what about them? Like maybe we can just pick one of them and just go through the entire process, how you guys were originally, like how you guys attracted by them at the beginning. So how you got in touch. We can say like let's do EtherFi. EtherFi is the best pick for this right now. And so how you guys got in touch with them, how you were making your due diligence process, how you actually got this thing that, all right, this team is a team which we want to invest in, and how you started to make business together.
Yeah, so EtherFi, we know them back in the day. So I would say when they first come out, they are nobody. No, not no top tier VCs backing, not a lot of interest. But we have been observing them for 2 years, and so at first, they were building something. I think on the staking space, and then they saw restaking, so they quickly pivoted. They got a lot of traction, and that was when the time we know, okay, this team has something. They know what to do. They know what the market wants. And then I've had chats with two of their co-founders. I think Rock mainly have a couple of chats, and he's very professional. He knows what he's doing. He knows where the market is going. I think one of the very unique impression that he has on me is he's very professional. Because in crypto, many of the projects, maybe even when they type things, maybe they type on the go and a lot of typos, or they are not treating things seriously. If you're looking at EtherFi, data room is very professionally made, so it's like Web2 standard, or they are treating themselves like they are a real financial institutions. That is what attracts me. So I think they are super professional, and even right now, many of the teams they're working remotely, right? But when they recruit, so I just recommended some of the talents to join them. So I talked to Rock. When they recruit, they say, okay, you need to either be in Denver or in Cayman Islands. So you need to be in the office. I think, of course, I'm not saying being in the office is good, but I'm just saying they're treating themselves very seriously, because they're from the US, and even them, the founders, they need to go to Cayman Island. I think every I forgot, Cayman Island or Puerto Rico, every 6 months, within a year or sometime like that. And even I think when they build new things, what they do is they have investor group. They will ask, okay, we are testing out these features, what do you think? And they get feedback first, and then they just roll that out. And many projects, they don't ask feedback first, because you should ask feedbacks from someone who supported you, or someone that you can trust. And they are not asking, okay, investors spends 30 minutes, they are just asking, okay, can you just give us some very immediate feedback, etc. So it's very easy for us to add value. I think this point really makes them stand out. Professionalism, their way to pivot, and then uh, they are not trying to rush things. They always get opinions, and then
Mhm.
trying to see things and collect data. Once they get the feedback, they roll out the features, they get the data, and they come back and ask. I think this is very important. So we are all involved, and we all can make the product better. Different investors, they have different opinions. Some investors saying, okay, this market you should focus on, because this is all. Some investors, I remember when they were trying to pivot to PayFi, investors were saying, okay, there are many competitors. Why do you want to do that? But Mike also answered very skillfully in terms of the users they have, etc. and also articulate on why they need to pivot because restaking wasn't working that well. So obviously they think ahead, and they are also very humble to learn about other people's opinion.
I love this perspective and how you mentioned the professionalism that they have behind it. Because, like, coming from the traditional institutions, also like seeing how crypto projects are doing their investor relations and how they generally, like, you open the chat with a very serious project and then, they text with a bunch of typos. You just immediately have this thing in your mind that you are not professionals. How can you handle the money of thousands and thousands of people while, you cannot even take the focus on properly texting into the chat with your investors. And so this is a very cool thing. And it actually shows that, attention to the details is very, very important because generally making you the serious project, it's not about only, making your product flow properly, not about making the proper developers. It's about having everything on spot, having everything lined up, everything perfected out, and only then it works in a good way. So I really love this perspective and thank you for sharing it because actually I also don't remember anybody mentioning such small details, which are very, very important in my opinion. And maybe you can also underline some common patterns between the projects that you guys think are the best picks for you. So maybe you can just name a couple of main points once again, just to finalize it a little bit and see like which sort of a projects, even for retail, worth their attention and which sort of a projects do not worth their attention.
Uh, I think uh, projects that knows or that can make something fun and engaging is very important. Like for instance, Mezo. I remember Chinese New Year. They've got this envelope, red envelope, whereby okay, they say they send you the red envelope. The envelope can grow if you share with someone, or you can roll the dice. So there is some lucky elements of luck. So they're trying to do something new that people can feel is engaging. I think this is very important because many of the things in the crypto space, they are interesting, they are money oriented, but I think the fun elements is also very, very important because if it's fun, you can attract people to try. And it's not just that. And many of the other projects that successful projects that I've seen, they're trying to make something fun. Even if you're
Mhm.
thinking about Solana, meme coins, it's just fun, like Trump, etc. So people love the fun element, of course, on top of making money. I think that's a very important point. And then secondly is the projects, the communication. So communications, of course, it means communications to investors, but more importantly to your stakeholders, like to your token holders. And if some projects they kind of screw up, so one of our portfolios they got hacked, but they communicate very well. So after they hack, within 24 hours, they say okay, they find out what is happening, and they break down how much is being exploited and how hacker did that, and then if there are other ways to get back the money, and then they've been very relentless. So they say, okay, after a couple of days, after 1 to 2 days, they say, okay, we've gotten back because we asked the validators to get back the money, and then we are communicating with the hackers, and then at the end of the day, they didn't get back all the money. I think they get back 80%, but then they say, okay, we are creating a pool that we are using our own money to fund that back. So every step, they communicate very well. So I think that really build the trust. And hack is very major issue. But if you look into, for instance, Ola Finance, they got hacked, but they come back
Mhm.
because they are also very communicative. So I think communicating with the community well and admitting your mistake, even humor finance, right? Previously, I think there was a scandal. One of the teammates say something inappropriate to community members, and then the co-founder say, okay, I'm sorry, we made this mistake, we shouldn't. So they just apologize openly, and I think this is very this can bring trust. So communication, because usually we don't know what the project is going on, but if you communicate well regularly, people have trust. So communication is also very important, and making this fun is also very important. And I think these are the two major points. Of course, professionalism, etc. Those are also very important. But these are, I think, especially communications to the token holders is super important.
100%. I love the answer, and I love how deep you actually dig into the psychological things when it comes to relations between the project and the people. Because, like, yeah, each person who invested into token, or who are just following the project, they're already anyhow, like treating them as part of their life. And so the direct and honest, which is the most important thing, communication is the crucial thing. Because sometimes you just look at a project and they have some sort of bad thing happening, and they just do not communicate it with the people. And so you just sit there, stress, and don't understand what is actually happening. While, if the founder and if the team is very open minded and transparent to their community, they can just openly go launch a stream like Twitter Spaces or whatsoever and just talk straight to their community. And I think also that is very, very important. And it actually reflects on your brand awareness a lot right now. And when it comes to VC mindset, like I wanted just to go a little bit onto VC side and see what is the general perspective right now. You already touched this topic a couple of times and shared insightful, interesting things. And I wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper into that. And when it comes to venture capital dynamics, like I wanted to ask you, what is the common misconception about crypto venture funds that you guys see right now?
Hmm. I guess many of the projects, they treat venture funds as the same thing, and obviously, it's not the same even geographically. Different ventures, they've got different kind of focus. They can add different kind of value. And some venture funds, they are brand name ventures, right? If you got A16C, so they just do the brand. And if you got, for instance, maybe Paradigm, Polychain, Dragonfly, etc. And of course, some of these kind of funds, they add value, but some have a lot of portfolios that they need to take care of. So there are funds that like if you got 100K from a top tier, S tier, tier one VC fund, but 100K is very small to their entire fund size, and which is different from if a tier 1.5 or tier two VCs invest a majority or maybe 10% of their portfolios AUM, or 5% or 1% of AUM into the project. So maybe same amount, maybe each of them they are giving out 1 million, but the 1 million means a lot to a smaller funds. So I think when projects are seeing that, they should treat investors differently. So investors which invest a lot in their proportions to their AUM, they have high incentive to get a helping hand. And many investors, they are very busy. So if you don't ask, maybe some of them, they won't really trying to create or trying to add value. I think many of the projects, they just assume investors will be there to really actively helping. Of course, we do try our best, but not all the investors will be. So I think one of the misconceptions is for projects, they shouldn't, or they assume investors remember them, but it's not always the case. I know some investors, they've invested in 100 projects. How could you possibly remember which project is doing what? So I think when projects talk to investors, when they get the fundings or when they get support, they should remember, or they should at least have a list of, okay, what is the expertise of these investors? How can they help? So if their expertise is maybe in certain aspects, maybe in product, or they should just reach out to investors. These are free money or free advice, because many of the investors, they've seen lots of projects, so they can just point out what is good, what is not. Even if you're asking ChatGPT, they wouldn't be as deep as what investors know. I think that's a very common misconception, or yeah, misconception. And then secondly is in terms of fundraising, uh, So I'm seeing right now there is a trend that many of the top tier VCs, they want to take the entire round. It's becoming like the Web2 space, because in Web3, I think Web3 investing last cycle was, maybe if you raise a round, there are 10 or 20 investors, each of them they share some investment amount. But in the Web2 space, VCs don't share deals. One VCs want to take the entire deal because they don't
Hmm.
want other people to take. And I think right now with many of the VCs, they're raising larger amount of funds. They also want to take the entire deal. There is also some misconceptions, or some projects they think, okay, if I get this top tier fund, I'm good. But I would argue in the Web3 space, having a more strategic mix of the VCs could actually help. Especially if you get brand name VCs, maybe that's a very good brand, but maybe they are not. They don't care about you because they've got the leverage. They've invested in so many projects, and obviously, I'm not saying ArkStream is top tier. I'll say maybe in Asia we are very well known, but compared to Dragonfly, etc., we are very small. Like our AUM is only 150 million. I think Dragonfly just raised a 500 million fund. So there is still quite a gap. But I think uh, having many projects, they just go for the brand name VCs, but that might also be a misconception. I think these are the two major things. Let me also think. Okay, and yeah, I think the third thing is many projects they just assume when they get a no, that's the answer. So we just say, okay, I'm not interested. I've talked to you, we've passed. But many of the times we say no because we've seen. I remember when it was in the bull market, each week we receive 100 DAC. Yeah, 100. So in 56 week, it's 5,000 or 6,000 DACs in a year, which is a lot. And so we say no to many of the projects. But if we say no, if some projects they once they have update, they share. Once they've got traction, so we'll know. Okay, this project is evolving. They know where they are going, etc. So we kind of slowly build the relationship. So many projects they just have the misconceptions that okay, VC say no. Maybe when we raise the next round, we talk to them. But I think the better approach is even when you're raising next round, even if you have some product push, if you have some stuff, you just tell them what you're doing. I think that is a way to really build the relationship. And ultimately, VCs are just investing in the team more, like investing in the person. So I think this is also a something that projects could do more or should do more. And even VCs are not responding because maybe each day we are receiving a lot of message. And maybe if every project is saying, okay, what am I doing? Maybe VCs are not responding, but they can see sometimes when it's the time to respond, they will. I think that's also kind of the key. So just being relentless is also very helpful.
100%, 100%. I actually love every word of what you just said, and I would love to add something up, but I don't have anything to add here. And this actually means that you have very, very cool and deep expertise. And what you said about branding, I really love it a lot as well, because I see that a lot of projects they're trying to aim at having Dragonfly or Animoca in their portfolio. But as you mentioned, that when such a big fund gives you like 100K, or and sometimes what I personally saw, that they don't even give the money. They just invest with their name by being added to your portfolio, and that's it. They don't even give the cash. And so then they think that they're already on the top, but it's not actually the case. It's just making your brand better. But then you need to really focus on the investor who's, as you said, investing bigger portion of their portfolio into your project, and then they really take care of you. They really help you out. They really try to push you because you are important for them. While for any sort of big brand who you just said, you're just part of their like 100 projects portfolio, like 200 projects portfolio. They don't really care. They focus more on the projects whom they actually gave a big check and who they think going to be their best stake, which is super cool. And thank you for mentioning it. And one more thing that I wanted to ask you about is that retail right now is really, like, I saw a lot of thought in CT about VCs, that what basically VCs do, that they just dump the entire portfolio of them as soon as the token is being launched, and they just basically destroy the project. So how does it look from your perspective? Like, how does ArkStream actually exit the projects that they invest in? Like, do you guys consider it long term? You trying to hold it for a longer? You're trying to, sell it in portions? Like, how does your liquidation strategy looks like right now?
So I say we are rational investors. I think everyone is rational, so we uh buy some asset when we think they have the potential to increase in value in the future. So if some products they don't have the potential, of course we will sell. And same as many retail, if they buy, they think it will grow. I think one of the issue is uh, first of all, I think uh, the value of the VCs is quite high. Of course, maybe because I'm a VC. VC invest when we see evaluate projects, they pick the right projects, and then they push so they can get projects can get listed. And these are risks that retail are not taking. So I think if VC spend a lot of times to do the things and retail are not taking the risk, I think the VCs they should also have some privilege, of course, on that sense. But I think one of the major issues is about the tokenomics or the VC supply overhang. Uh, there are too many badly designed tokenomics that makes VCs and retail as two very separate counterparties. So if VCs get a lot of tokens, they dump is of course bad for retail. And I think this really needs to be changed about the tokenomics. Because so if there is no rules, if everybody in the world can kill people, people will kill people, and that's why we have the law. And because we have the law saying, okay, if I kill you right now, or if you kill me, and it will be bad for the society. So we need to have some rules. I think it's about the rules not being set good enough. But I'm seeing a lot of better design of tokenomics right now. I'm seeing many of the very balanced approach. I think these are very important for the industry. And also, in my opinion, if we are looking at the pyramid, I think retail is the lowest, right? Maybe VCs is a bit higher. KOLs they are even higher because KOLs they all oftentimes got the token first and then they dump. So you see the token price uh, getting dumped, and then afterwards is VCs, right? Because VCs get the tokens after a year, and then the top of the pyramid is maybe second top is market makers. They get a lot of tokens, they can dump, etc. But nobody knows. What people know is they saw the tokenomics table, they saw VCs are getting the supply. But before VCs, there is market maker, there is other people, KOLs. And then on the top is exchange. If you're looking at like Binance, they are getting maybe 3% of the tokens of the token supply when they got first launch. But nobody retails are not complaining because when Binance dump, retail doesn't know. So I think there needs to be more transparency, seeing who is dumping, what is going on, because otherwise people are just gonna make up stories. So if there is a transparent tokenomics and seeing, okay, this token is given to whom and who is doing the selling, then I think the industry will or people will know, okay, who is really doing the dumping. And I'll say there are VCs that dump, but if a project is strong enough, VCs will not dump. If you're looking at Hyperliquid, Hyperliquid doesn't have VCs, but it's still very strong because people are expecting them to grow. And even Bitcoin, if Bitcoin has a VC round, I think many VCs will still be holding because they believe in the long-term value of Bitcoin. So I think it just depends on it's a product of badly designed tokenomics, not enough transparency, and then also it's easy to make a story because this is very easy to see because VC's unlock is very easy to see. But of course, I'm a VC, so maybe I'm
Mhm.
speaking for myself.
Nice, nice. And I love how you actually described it all. And so, final thing to sum this VC mindset thing up with. Um, What I wanted to actually ask you, do you see the future potential in crypto VCs? And do you generally think that such thing as Web3 is still going to exist in like matter of years? Or right now we have this smooth bridge between Web2 and Web3, and in the upcoming future, we won't have such thing as Web3 product. We're just going to be having products with blockchain that is deeply integrated. And so there will be no differences between just classical web businesses and Web3 businesses.
Or maybe in the long future, maybe after we are dead. I think it's hard to predict the future, but what I know is this Web3 thing will still stay for quite a long time, at least a decade or two. And I think it's very hard to destroy a culture because Web3 culture is very different from Web2 culture. In Web2,
Mhm.
I cannot talk to the CEO of JP Morgan, but in Web3, I can meet CZ or some top projects. Ethena, the founder, I can just message them. I can just find them, but I can talk to them on Twitter. But in Web2, it's very different. I think Web3 is very open, and people are trying to help each other, and it's fun. So that's why I think people who come to this space, they are different. It's like a cult. So if I believe in maybe what Christianity is like a religion. So maybe this religion will change when some new people
I love
join.
that you said it.
Yeah, I don't think it will become the same as the Web2 religion in the future, but I cannot predict. Most of my prediction is wrong. But what I can say is maybe even within the next decade, it won't be merged or integrated because people are just different and people choose. By choosing Web3, you already mean it already means you are very different. And we are going to conference to meet people, to hang out, to have fun, and to make friends. But in Web2, it's very what do I say? It's very maybe dull in my own word, and people are just talking about this kind of boring stuff. But in Web3 conference, you can do gun shooting, you can do stuff, and it's not just for fun, but it's a way that express our viewpoints. I think it's very cool, and and certainly I don't hope it will merge. And I believe we won't merge into Web2 at least in the near future.
I love this statement, and I love how you mentioned that, it actually looks like a separate religion. It was the first thought that I had when I started to hang out with crypto dudes a lot, and I basically found out that, like, everyone is like-minded. It's extremely easy to make connections, to make friends here, and I know a bunch of people who are, like, whose friends group is only made of crypto people because I heard this thing that somebody told me, like, I cannot hang out with not crypto people because I don't have things to talk to them about. Like, we're so deeply integrated into this space that sometimes it's really complicated to talk to people from the outside, and it actually makes this sort of religion. And I 100% agree with you on this one. And to finalize our conversation today, maybe you can just give your perspective on what are the hottest takes on the market right now and what we can expect. Because right now we see that everyone is fighting a lot and that people just don't have that much belief as they had before. So maybe you can just underline which sort of narratives you think gonna be booming in the upcoming future, and what are the advices for the builders who are building something right now, what they should take a look at.
Mm, yeah, I was on a bear market space yesterday listening to them, but I think many of the builders they say this is the best time to build. Uh, right now, of course, what is hype is stable coin infrastructure, prediction market, but I think uh, what will be hyped is not what is hyped right now. So we need to stay focused on seeing what is going to emerge. And right now, no one can knows what is going to emerge. But of course, right now, I think prediction market and stablecoin infrastructure, AI are the three top thing. And I'll say, if I'm a builder, I'll just trying to see what is going on in the market, trying to make network with people and trying to do some building stuff and trying to see what is gonna be the new thing. But honestly, the past couple of months has been very dull. I was just having a chat with two other funds. One is in the US, one is in Portugal, and they're saying, okay, we haven't made any investments for the last couple of months. The third fund say they are making an AI fund to invest in Web2 AI projects. So people, the Web3, even investors, they are not seeing anything new. And I think this is really a time for builders to just make friends, make connections, and trying to deepen themselves, and not to do too much trading, meme coins, etc. I think this is just like the last bear market. There will be some new things emerge in the most unexpected time, but nobody knows. And the one who said they know is obviously making some very fake assumptions, because even 2 years ago people are talking about GameFi, but right now GameFi is not really hype. But I think what people should do is to go to conference. If they want, if they don't want, they can study, listen to podcasts. I love listening to Bankless, Dragonfly, uh, Alliance Style, many of the good resources, and just to keep updated with what is going on in the market. I think there must be something new coming out each single month.
100%. And I think this is the biggest, like taste of this market, that actually every month you think that, all right, we're feeling dead, but it's not the case, and something new appears. And every month, big minds from Web3 are actually coming up with something new and, bringing the breath of fresh air to this room, I would say. Beautiful. And Chung, maybe you can just finalize it with some advice from the Chung himself. So, like, what would you recommend to the people from Web3, or just to the builders, or to somebody who is just watching this podcast, to do in this space? And, just give some wise advice to our listeners.
Wise advice. I I think yeah, I joined the Web3 space, I think 5 years ago when I finished my MBA. I did my MBA in Nigeria, so Africa. My roommate was a Nigerian, then doing a bit of kind of crypto stuff. So I kind of got into the space, and I was trading a lot, so I lost all my money. And then I joined the firm, started a game, become the partner. Only one who joined and become the partner later on. I think uh, the most important thing is, like, the crypto space is just like the four seasons. Of course, there will be winter, there will be summer, and in the winter we just uh rest. In the summer we work hard and trying to really think about, you're working for yourself, you're not working for any projects, any company. I'm working for myself. I think this is the era that if you're working for yourself, you can make a fortune, and just don't think about uh getting a lot of benefits from the others, trying to think about how to add value. Many of the good uh good things that happen is because I add value to other people. I understand what they need, and then at the end of the day, we got some very good return. Like one project, I trying to be very helpful. I even flew to Dubai to meet them during the flood, and then I walk kind of half swim to his hotel, and then he was very moved that I came to Dubai just for him, and then we became good friends. We talk about different stuff. I think if just go and chase for something and trying to think about what kind of value you can add. I think if you add value to other projects, they will kind of add value back to you. But these are pretty generic thing. I would say applies to life. So it doesn't
Yeah.
apply to crypto as well. But I think these are in crypto space. People are sometimes too money oriented, always thinking, "Oh, can you add value to me?" But I think you should just think about what can you bring to the table.
100%. And I love this take. I think it is actually a very wise advice. So, Chung, I really love the conversation. I love the expertise that you shared with me personally and with our listeners today. And I think that it's not the last time when we can discuss everything and just have a pleasant conversation. So, once again, thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you so much for opening up this curtain of VC mindshare and basically just giving some insightful thoughts. And I wish you guys to have all your projects 100x and, just beat this market. I wish you guys to stay safe, and thank you once again for being here with me today. And remember that at Kolo, we show faces, not just talking to spaces. Thank you so much, Chung. Thank you to the listeners, and see you guys on the next stream. Cheers.
Thank you, Dmitry. Goodbye.
Thank you.